Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dudati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sattvajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahanada Dalita Shri Vishakhanita Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurpashe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Vesha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Padidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We are studying Bhagavad-gita as it is, and we are on the last chapter, chapter 18. In the last class, we discussed the influence of the three modes of material nature on things like intelligence, knowledge, determination, work, worker, happiness. So after concluding that section, now Krishna is going to take Arjuna forward towards the solution. He's going to explain the solution to Arjuna. Because after hearing all that Krishna has explained in last few chapters, a person may get this thought that how will anyone ever come out of the control of the three modes? Because the three modes are influencing everything. Like for now, we are studying Bhakti Shastri or Gita Sastri. Even our study, our attending the classes, making the notes, preparing for the exam, memorizing the shlokas, all that is also controlled by the three modes. And we also might be doing these activities in Sattvaguna, in Rajaguna, or sadly in Tamaguna. It's possible. So everything that we do is controlled by the three modes. So then what is the way out? How can one then attain the ultimate perfection? That's a doubt which Arjuna will have, and Krishna will answer that. So before we jump into that, let's chant Mangalacharan for Bhagavad-gita. Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Fullaravindayata Patra Netre Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Puranaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vaitraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Duhe Namaha. So the solution which Krishna offers is very simple. Arjuna's doubt is that everything is composed of three modes. So what kind of work we need to do to attain liberation? And the Lord says, do whatever you must be doing as per your nature. You have a prescribed duty. you belong to one of the varnas. So as per the varna, you do whatever is required to be done. So you do your prescribed duty with the thought of what? Worshipping the Lord. And in this way, you can attain liberation. Now you see that method which Krishna is prescribing here it's not the conclusive decision of Krishna. This chapter is a summary of the entire Bhagavad-gita. So here we are coming to a solution to the problem. But this is not the best solution. There is also a solution better than this, which will come in the next section, next to next section, which we'll be discussing in the next class. But anyway, for now, this is the solution, that you do your duty and you worship the Lord through that duty. That will purify the work from the influence of the three modes and lead to liberation. Text 41. Brahmana Kshatriya Visham Shudranam cha parantapa karmani pravibhaktani svabhava prabhaver gunehe shamodamastapah saucham shantirajavam cha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam Shauryam tejo ditirdakshyam yuddhe chapiya palayanam danam ishvara bhavascha shatram karma sabhavajam krishi gorakshya vanijyam vaishya karma sabhavajam paricharyatmakam karma shudrasyapi sabhavajam sve sve karmani abhirataha samsiddhim labate naraha Swakarma niratah siddhim yatha vindati tatshino yataha pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha shreyan sudharmo vigunaha paradharmat svanushthitat sabhavaniyatam karma kurvanna apnoti kilvisham sahajam karma kaunteya Sadosham api natyachet sarvarambha hi doshena dhumena agnirivavitaha. So in the first verse in today's class, Krishna says, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes, or chastiser of the enemy. So he's bringing up the topic of Varnashrama, not Varnashrama, but the Varnas, the four Varnas. And he's saying that these people, they have different activities or qualities because of their different nature. We discussed this before already. Swabhava. This nature is obtained through one's past life activities, and one is born with that nature. So the four people, or the four categories, the modes that influence them was already discussed before. Anyone remember which were the modes that influence these personalities? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Which mode influences them? Primary and secondary. For Brahmana it is Pankaj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, for Brahmana primary mode is goodness.
Yeah, very good.
And the secondary mode is passion.
No, for Brahmana there is only primary mode, goodness. Okay. There is no secondary Brahmana. Sattva guna is prominent in a Brahmana. And because of that, a Brahmana or a person who is Brahmanical in nature is very peaceful in nature because of Sattva. Sattva brings peace. Then Kshatriya. What is the primary mode for a Kshatriya? Vrindarani Mataji. Yes. You have to unmute, please.
they are in the mode of passion.
Yeah, that's the primary mode. And the secondary?
Ignorance.
Mhm.
Sorry, goodness, I guess, for Kshatriya. Vaishya.
Yeah, goodness. Thank you. So passion plus goodness. And because of that, their nature is what? They like to control people. That's their nature. And then Vaishya. What is the mode? Neha Mataji.
Prabhuji, the primary mode is Rajas and secondary mode is also Rajas.
Tamas, right? Ignorance. So their nature is they're dealing with money most of the time. And finally, Shudra, Sureka Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Sadhu Guna. Only tamas.
Tamas and Rajas, right? There is Rajas in the secondary.
Okay.
So their nature is they are foolish. Now, based on this nature, they are supposed to do some duties, some activities. And these activities can also lead to purification. How? That Krishna will explain later. First, he explains what are the activities of a Brahmana. So a Brahmana is someone who works to cultivate and teach these qualities to people in human society. That's a Brahmana. Practicing these qualities and teaching others how to cultivate these qualities. That's Brahmana. Not just teaching people mathematics, science, computer, and all the subjects. Also teaching them how to be a good human being. So that's Brahmana's job. Shamo damastapaha saucham shanti rajavamevacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavacham. Srila Prabhupada, whenever he would give a class during second initiation or Brahmana initiation, most of the time he would quote this verse that these are the qualities of a Brahmana. And a Brahmana should have these qualities. Try to develop these qualities if one does not have them. So what are these qualities? Let's see, read the translation. 42. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Peaceful in nature, self-control means they control the mind and the senses. They're austere by nature. They have purity of consciousness. They're tolerant, honest. They have knowledge, and wisdom means they know how to apply the knowledge. They know this also. So this is something whenever I give some training sessions to teachers in schools and colleges, I tell them, you cannot be a good teacher if you cannot translate knowledge into application. What you teach, you should be also able to tell people how to apply. So knowledge plus wisdom. Wisdom means translation of the knowledge into application, how to apply. So knowledge plus wisdom and religiousness, that makes a Brahmana. These are the qualities that a Brahmana tries to cultivate and also promote, teach others. Here, interestingly, Krishna did not mention the job profile. That a Brahmana should be doing this, should be doing that. No, he did not mention. Because a Brahmana actually can do any job. A Brahmana can even do a Shudra's job. He's allowed or she is allowed. However, they don't, but they are allowed. So what defines them as a Brahmana is not what they do, but with what attitude they do it. How they do it. That's what decides. Dronacharya was a teacher of the science of war, fighting, but he was a Brahmana. It's not that he was a Kshatriya teaching people how to fight. He was a Brahmana teaching people how to fight. Same thing, Parshuram was a Brahmana. He was teaching people how to fight. So it's their nature, their attitude. So these are the qualities they have. And why they have these qualities? Because these qualities are born of mode of goodness. As the mode of goodness will increase, these qualities will increase in a person. So a question arises now. Can others who are not Brahmanas not exhibit these qualities? Which means if I or you are not a Brahmana, you can never be peaceful. You cannot have knowledge or wisdom. Isn't there any advantage?
I think they can, but it's not their primary quality.
Very good. Yes. They can, but occasionally. Which means due to some reasons, if Sattva Guna increases, they will exhibit these qualities. But this is not going to be their primary nature. In a Brahmana, due to predominance of Sattva, these are the qualities primarily present in that person. But in others, it may just happen to be present due to some circumstances, some conditions. Right? So this is how we understand person's nature also. Sometimes people are so confused in identifying what their nature is, the younger generation. So they should know it's not what they suddenly understand they like to do and they like to do it for 2 days, that's their nature. A person may like to do thousands of things, but it is something which you would do and would continue to do for years and years and years and years and years. That activity decides your nature. Not that today I like to do this, then after 10 days I like to do that. That is just because of changing of modes. So nature means something which you naturally do, and that can be observed for a long period of time. That we see in ISKCON society also, that people, they do the services in the society as per their nature. These 4 kinds of classes exist in ISKCON as well. So they will be doing services, they will engage in activities as per their nature only. If they are forced to do something else, then they will either not be happy or they will not be able to do it nicely. So this is something very essential, and it's such an important topic for present times because people are so confused about what is their nature and how they should be going ahead about it. Anyway, let's go to the next verse. Kshatriya's nature. Now for Kshatriya, what is mentioned? Shauryam tejo dhritir dakshyam yuddhe chapi apalayanam. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. One of the qualities which is mentioned here is most prominent in them, and that is Ishvara Bhavaha. Ishvara Bhavaha means they like to control others. Ishvara means controller. Ishvara Bhava means nature to control. So they have a very strong nature to control others. Is it a bad quality? Hanit Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Ranvat Pranam. No, Prabhuji, it is not a bad quality, but it depends upon how it is used.
Yeah, very good. So it's not a bad quality. That quality, Ishvara Bhavaha, it is good if it is used to protect others. And it becomes bad when that controlling is used to exploit others. So Kshatriya uses control to give protection to people. Remember, we were discussing this long time ago in chapter 1 about protection of women. So there Prabhupada writes in the Prabhupada, women should be controlled. And now, what is the wrong meaning that people take out of that statement? Control means like you put her inside a house, you confine her inside, make her slave, restrict her movement, stuff like that. But there he was meaning control means you give protection. You give protection. Don't exploit. However, you see, as times change, the English words, they take a more prominent meaning. It's not that they necessarily mean that only, but due to the culture which is there in the society, some words take a meaning more prominent than the other. So because of that, the word control in present times has taken a negative connotation, right? That's why people will say, don't try to control me. Or you don't have any right to control me. But actually, if you see, the word control can also be used positively. Controlling is necessary. Right? So control here means they control to protect, not to exploit. So that's why people should be very smart when they study the Shastras. English words, they change their meanings in society as per the culture. So when Srila Prabhupada used the word control, it meant protection. You give protection. That should be offered. Then said it should be offered to children, it should be offered to brahmanas, it should be offered to the animals. Now, this is something very essential for anyone who is in a leadership position. This is a lesson to learn. Protection can, in subtle ways, turn into exploitation. I'm sorry, I'll show the slide. Protection can, in certain ways, turn into exploitation if the protector is not a servant leader. This problem can happen outside a spiritual organization, and it can also happen inside a spiritual organization. If the leader is not a servant leader, protection can in subtle ways turn into exploitation. It can become suffocation for the person being protected. So the person has to be a servant leader, that I'm leading as a service, not that I'm leading because I'm better than them, they're inferior or whatever. I'm leading as a servant leader. Why there was so much of hate in India for the caste system? The reason was because the people belonging to higher caste, they were not sufficiently compassionate towards the lower caste. And because of that, the lower caste, they retaliated. That was the reason. The higher caste, the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, they were not sufficiently taking care of the lower caste. So the lower caste then retaliated, because instead of giving protection, there was exploitation. So then there was a great fire. Otherwise, look at the caste system. It is so scientific. The top you go, the higher you go, the more renounced you should be. That's actually the caste system, which means if you are going up the success ladder, you're becoming a Kshatriya, then you're becoming a Brahmana, then you become better Brahmana. That means the more renounced you should be. Now, what happens is, in reality, in present times, it's the other way. The higher you go, the greater sense gratifier you become. And because of that, those who are in the lower levels, they start developing envy. If, let's say, it's the other way around, if the Brahmanas are the more renounced, there will be no fight to become a Brahmana. There will not be any fight for equal rights. Because then equal rights would mean that you also become renounced, you also become poor, you also become, materially detached. Then there will not be any fight for equal rights. Now, why there is a fight for equal rights? Because they are seeing the higher you go, the more materially opulent and luxurious life you live. So caste system, it failed because of this reason. That the leaders, they fail to recognize the duty as a leader. That's why this is very important. When we are powerful, we need to be humbler, because that humility, it garners the quality of service attitude. Humility makes us behave like a servant, act like a servant. If that quality of humility will not be there, immediately the person will become bossy. So that's why Bhakti Swami Maharaj used to say, the more powerful you get, the more humble you should also become. Then your power will be a boon for the society. Otherwise, your power will be only a cause of havoc in the society. That's for Kshatriyas. Next verse is Vaishyas and Shudras. Krishi Goraksha Vanijam Vaishya Karma Subhavacham. The first two lines, they talk about Vaishyas. Farming, Krishi, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas. This business also includes trading, banking. That's work for the Vaishyas. And for the Shudras, Paricharyatmakam karma, there are labor and service to others. It is for Shudras. Labor and service to others. Is it an exhaustive list which is mentioned by Krishna here? No. This is just to give us an idea. Not that this is all, that's all, nothing more than this. No, this is just to give an idea. Just to give some inkling about the subject. So these are the qualities by which they work. Now, how will these activities lead to perfection, which is an important topic to be understood? How will these activities lead to perfection? So it's mentioned here. Let's see the next verse. Swe swe karmani abhiratah samsiddhim labate naraha swakarmani ratah siddhim yatha vindati takshino. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. Yatha pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmanatam abhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a man can attain perfection to performing his own. Krishna is saying, if you have a nature, it's due to your past life, that is true. But I have given you that nature. So you can use that nature in worshipping me. Same nature. You can use it for worshipping me. By worshipping me through that nature, that activity of worshipping me will purify your whole action and give you liberation. So this is basically the idea of Varnashram Dharma. Purification through Varnashram. Any activity that you do as per your nature, you continue to do that, but you purify yourself by worshipping the Lord with that activity. So let's read the purport here. Okay, Pankaj Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. But as stated in the 15th chapter, all living beings are fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Supreme Lord is the beginning of all living entities. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadi Asyatara. The Supreme Lord is therefore the beginning of life of every living entity. And as stated in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, the Supreme Lord, by his two energies, His external energy and internal energy is all pervading. Therefore, one should worship the Supreme Lord with his energies. Generally, the Vaishnava devotees worship the Supreme Lord with his internal energy. His external energy is perverted reflection of the internal energy. The external energy is a background, but the Supreme Lord, by the expansion of his plenary portion as Paramatma, is situated everywhere. He is the super soul of all demigods, all human beings, all animals, everywhere. One should therefore know that as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one has his duty to render service unto the Supreme. Everyone should be engaged in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. That is recommended in this verse.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Everyone should think that he
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Okay, David Prabhu, can read the next one. Next paragraph.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Saksya, the matter of the sense, and by all result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, should be worshipped. If one think always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The Lord says in Bhagavad-gita 12.7, Tisham aham summadata, the Supreme Lord himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. That is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned this in the purport. Everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Rishikesha, the master of the senses. And by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be worshipped. If one thinks always in this way, in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord, he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. This is something which all of us should seriously note down. We don't have to change our activities to become a devotee. Whatever we do, we need to continue doing that. But we just have to understand this formula that Krishna is explaining here. While you do that activity, instead of taking inspiration from one's false ego, take inspiration from Krishna, that I'm doing this activity because this is what Krishna has given me to do. Going to the job, working in a particular office, doing this, doing that, whatever it may be, whatever people call as material, whatever it may be. So this is given to me by Krishna. And if through that activity I worship Krishna, then this activity itself can help me become a better devotee of Krishna. This has to be understood. Not that one has to jump from what one is doing into something else. This is all one needs to do. Worship Krishna through that activity. That's very essential. Very, very essential. One should worship Krishna through that activity. Then that activity will bring purification. Here, what is being explained is turning Nishkama Karma Yoga into Bhakti. How? By offering that work, this thing in our life, personal application. We should make a habit that after we complete any task, we offer it to the Lord in our mind by saying, may my Lord be pleased by this work. May you be pleased with this work. Whatever it may be, a small and simple thing, but offering it to Krishna mentally, in your mind. Then may the Lord be pleased. After all, by your inspiration, we have done it. Anything, that's our nature. So we have done it. So this is something very essential, which even a devotee should be cultivating. This is not something which Prabhupada is writing in the purport, but he did not do. He also did. He maintained a personal diary. In that personal diary, he every day jot down the report that he wanted to give to Krishna, what he did that day. He put it down. You can see Srila Prabhupada's diaries are available. So he put down. Sometimes you'll see the entries into the diary are as simple as bought 1 kilo of potato, 200 ml of milk, and this costed this much paisa, that costed that much paisa. So spent 1 rupees 50 paisa. So that much simple entry in his diary. But what was the idea? That whatever I did today, I'm offering it to you. Right? So this is something which he did, and he asked devotees in ISKCON to do, which we also see when we visit an ISKCON temple. Every day in the morning, they announce the book distribution score. So what is that? That is, what did you do yesterday? Give a report of that to Krishna. So what we do collectively, we should also try to do individually. By the time it's your day end, you're going to rest, you take out a few minutes, if not putting on a piece of paper, at least mentally, whatever we did in that day, we can offer it to Krishna. That today I did these things, please accept. Please accept. So this is being taught here by Vishvanatha Chakravarti Thakur. In that way, that activity becomes an offering. Why do you have to tell this to Krishna? Does Krishna not know? Why we have to tell this to Krishna? We have to tell this to Krishna to make ourselves more conscious that we are doing it for Krishna. Right? So that we'll be more conscious that, yes, I'm doing it for Krishna. I'm not doing it for myself. So this is something which is a very practical instruction and can be easily done by anyone. We can write in our sadhana sheets. Yes, we can write in our sadhana sheets. We can write in our diary. We can write anywhere, and we can offer it to Krishna. Next verse. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. So stick to your nature, stick to what you are supposed to do, and you do that. And that will lead to purification, if done in the right manner. This is so essential, to know what I am supposed to do and then just do that. When people don't know what they're supposed to do, they want to do everything. But when people know what they're supposed to do, they will be just happy doing that. They know I'm confined towards doing this much, and I'm accountable for this much, not more than that. No, there is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. His name is Radha Govind Goswami Maharaj. So he does beautiful katha in Hindi. There's no one like him who can do katha in Hindi. Very sweet, very nectarian. And then he was requested by devotees to do katha in English. So he told, my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada, he only told me to do katha in Hindi. So though I know English, but he never told me to do in English. So I'll do what I am told. I'll not do more than that. So this is called sticking to what you are supposed to do as a duty. Not that because I have skill, I can, let me do more. No, that's not the understanding here. The understanding is whatever is told to me, I do because I'm accountable for that. I'll be judged or evaluated for that. And someone else will do what he or she is supposed to do. Right? So now someone may think now, You see, if I can be so popular in Hindi, let me speak in English, I'll be popular double times, 2 times. Then let me learn a few more languages and then speak in those languages, then I'll have more following. But that's not the idea here. The idea is what has been told to be done. So Krishna says, do your duty and don't perform others' duty. We also don't have to be whimsical. Sometimes when we don't understand these principles, we take the burden of everyone. What they are supposed to do, if they don't do, I'll do it. Again, that is foolishness. Do what you are supposed to do. That's all. Because you'll be evaluated for that. So this understanding was very clear when we understand individuals' roles, dharma. Because after all, my dharma has been given to me because I have a certain kind of disease. And that dharma is a prescription for cure. If I start following prescription of other patients, that's not going to cure me. That's not going to cure me. Even if I say, I like the medicines which has been given to someone else. No, that's not going to cure you. You have to eat the medicines which are given for you. That will be acting as treatment. So this is again a very important subject which can be discussed at length. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. He's telling Arjuna, don't try to be a Brahmana here on the battlefield. You are a Kshatriya, remain a Kshatriya, fight, kill, sin will not touch you. Because a Kshatriya can kill. So do what you're supposed to do. Stick to your activities, to your dharma. Let's read the purport here. Arati Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. One's occupational duty is prescribed in Bhagavad-gita. As already discussed in previous verses, the duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra are prescribed according to their particular modes of nature. One should not imitate another's duty. A man who is by nature attracted to the kind of work done by Shudras should not artificially claim to be a Brahmana, although he may have been born into a Brahmana family. In this way, one should work according to his own nature. No work is abominable if performed in the service of the Supreme Lord. The occupational duty of a Brahmana is certainly in the mode of goodness. But if a person is not by nature in the mode of goodness, he should not imitate the occupational duty of a Brahmana. For a Kshatriya or administrator, there are so many abominable things. A Kshatriya has to be violent to kill his enemies. And sometimes a Kshatriya has to tell lies for the sake of diplomacy. Such violence and I'm not able to see duplicity. Duplicity accompany political affairs. But a Kshatriya is not supposed to give up his occupational duty and try to perform the duties of a Brahmana.
Thank you, Mataji. Navanidhi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam. One should act to satisfy the Supreme Lord. For example, Arjuna was a Kshatriya. He was hesitating to fight the other party, but if such fighting is performed for the sake of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there need be no fear of degradation. In the business field also, sometimes the merchant has to tell so many lies to make a profit. If he does not do so, there can be no profit. Sometimes the merchant says, "Oh, my dear customer, for you I am making no profit." But one should know that without profit, the merchant cannot exist. Therefore, it should be taken as a simple lie if a merchant says that he is not making a profit. But the merchant should not think that because he is engaged in an occupation in which the telling of lies is compulsory, he should give up his profession and pursue the profession of a Brahmana. That is not recommended. Whether one is a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, or a Shudra doesn't matter if he serves by his work the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even Brahmanas who perform different types of sacrifice sometimes must kill animals, because sometimes animals are sacrificed in such ceremonies. Similarly, if a Kshatriya engaged in his own occupation kills an enemy, there is no sin incurred. In the third chapter, these matters have been clearly and elaborately explained. Every man should work for the purpose of yajna or for Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anything done for personal sense gratification is a cause of bondage. The conclusion is that everyone should be engaged according to the particular mode of nature he has acquired, and he should decide to work only to serve the supreme cause of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So very nicely, Srila Prabhupada is helping us out to understand this subject, right? Basically, the lesson to take away from this purport is our real self-worth comes not from our material identity, but from the identity that we are servants of God. That should be giving us self-worth. Not that I am doctor, I am engineer, I am lawyer, I am MBA, I am CA, I am this, I am that. That can never give us real self-worth, self-respect, self-love, so many words having the same meaning. The real self-worth comes from the understanding I'm servant of God. Externally, acting in different manners, but ultimately serving God. That's what gives people real self-worth. And this can help them to not become depressed in life or feel inferior compared to others, because you are serving Krishna in a different manner. That's all. Srila Prabhupada makes it very clear in the purport. He says, what should be the idea? The idea should be anything done for personal sense gratification is a cause of bondage. So if one seeks liberation, everyone should be engaged according to the particular mode of nature he has acquired, and he should decide to work only to serve the supreme cause of the Supreme Lord. This is what a community which is based on the Vedic principles looks like. That was the system before. There was minimal trade. Things were offered as services. Like a person who is a Brahmana will teach, and the person who is a student, if he's the son of a farmer, he'll bring some grains, some dal, and then offer that as the dakshina to the Brahmana. There was least monetary dealings. The king will rule, and in return, the citizens will give something in tax to the king. The tax was not money. The tax was the goods that they were producing. So because of that, there was less competition, there was less materialism, and people could live a very peaceful life. But in the present times, everything is being sold. Everything is getting sold. Everything is getting sold. And that leads to so much of unnecessary anxiety. Why it is being sold? Because people are forgetting this principle that we are born in this world not to make money. We are born in this world not to, grow our empire. We are born in this world not to become great heroes. We are born in this world to reform ourselves. We are born in this world to get an opportunity to come out of conditioned life. So to work is an opportunity for purification. I'm born with a Brahmana nature. I should work as a Brahmana to purify my life. Not because I will use that nature to earn money. I'm born as a Kshatriya. I should use that nature to purify myself. Not that I'll use that nature to earn money. I'm born as a Vaishya or Shudra. I should use it to purify myself. Not again, I should make money out of it. So that was the understanding, and that's why we had such societies or communities before. The people, there was barter system, there was so much of community spirit. But that is not present in modern times. Very difficult to get it. Very, very difficult to get it. And that leads to great anxiety in people's lives. Very much difficult it becomes for people to survive. So this is not healthy. Next verse. Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham api natyajet sarvaramba hi doshena dhumena agnir ivavitaha. Arjuna may say, but there are faults in some activities and we should give them up, those activities. Krishna says fault is everywhere. There is nothing which is without fault. Everyone has fault. Everything has fault. Everything we do has fault. When I say this is perfect, that's only my perception. You bring someone else, that person will find fault in what we say is perfect. Right? So everything we do is having faults. Everything. And everyone is full of fault. So it's not that I have to become like someone else. No. It's not that I have to become like someone else. That is not needed. What has to be done is, what is the principle? Krishna says that whatever faulty activity you are doing, you do that as an offering to me. That will purify that activity from its fault. That is the principle to be learned in life. Very important, very essential. Very, very essential. That if we do that, we will make spiritual growth very easily and substantially. Externally, making things perfect will not help us, because that is again from our perspective, it is perfect. Right? Some people have this idea that externally, if I get perfect, I'll become more dear to Krishna or closer to Krishna. But it's not going to work like that, because from Krishna's perspective, we can never be perfect. It's not possible. It's not possible. Let's say you made samosas today for Krishna. And if you think, next time when I make samosa, it will be perfect samosa. And then Krishna will be very happy. Of course, we should try to make it the best as possible. But we can never make it perfect for Krishna. It's not possible. Our attitude should be, whether it is perfect or not, Krishna, you're so kind, please accept it. That should be our attitude. And in that way, we offer everything to Krishna. Now, this is a difference between the so-called leaders and Srila Prabhupada. If you look at Srila Prabhupada's life, Srila Prabhupada accepted everyone's offerings, even if those offerings had full of faults. Because he thought accepting those things and offering them to Krishna will purify that person. And if we just try to externally try to make it perfect, it's not necessary that Krishna will see it to be perfect. It will always be imperfect from Krishna's perspective. So the idea is, what you do it with devotion, you do with humility, and you offer it to Krishna. Even if it is not externally so perfect. Offer it to Krishna, let Krishna accept it. And then that acceptance of Krishna will help us get purified. That is essential to be learned. So we don't have to compare ourselves with others. We don't have to copy others. We don't have to actually even see others, how they are doing. Wherever we are, whatever we are, we just have to start bringing offering to Krishna what we can. That will bring purification. Gradually, slowly. That has to be understood. We begin to offer what we can to Krishna. Sahajam karma kaunteya. And Krishna then says, everything in this world is full of faults, just like fire is covered by smoke. So every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature. O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. Don't give up that work because it's born of your nature. Paramita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. In conditioned life, all work is contaminated by the material moods. Even if one is a Brahmana, he has to perform sacrifices in which animal killing is necessary. Similarly, a Kshatriya, however pious he may be, has to fight enemies. He cannot avoid it. Similarly, a merchant, however pious he may be, must sometimes hide his profit to stay in business. Or he may sometimes have to do business on the black market. These things are necessary. One cannot avoid them. Similarly, even though a man is a Shudra serving a bad master, he has to carry out the order of the master, even though it should not be done. Despite these flaws, one should continue to carry out his prescribed duties, for they are born out of his own nature.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next paragraph, Anit Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. A very nice example is given herein. Although fire is pure, still there is smoke. Yet smoke does not make the fire impure. Even though there is smoke in the fire, fire is still considered to be the purest of all elements. If one prefers to give up work of a Kshatriya and take up the occupation of a Brahmana, he is not assured that in the occupation of a Brahmana, there are no unpleasant duties. One may then conclude that in the material world, no one can be completely free from the contamination of material nature. This example of fire and smoke is very appropriate in this connection. When in winter time, one takes a stone from the fire, sometimes smoke disturbs the eyes and other parts of the body. Still, one must make use of the fire despite disturbing conditions. Similarly, one should not give up his natural occupation just because there is some disturbing element. Rather, one should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational duty in Krishna consciousness. This is the perfectional point. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. When the result of work are purified, when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the self within, and that is self-realization. Hare Krishna.
This is the reason why Yudhishthira Maharaj agreed to have the gambling match. Because he knew, I'm a Kshatriya. Being a Kshatriya means this fault will be there in my action. That if someone challenges me for a gambling match, I have to agree. But because he knows dharma very well, and he knows faults are in all the activities, so he agreed to play that gambling match. But his attitude was what? Whatever happens, we accept it as Krishna's mercy. You know? Because it's only our mental concoction that this is good, that is bad. Actually, whatever we are supposed to do as a duty, as a role, it will have some bad things as a part of it. It will have some good things as a part of it. But you have to do it. You have to continue to do it. You know, even when you know it's not really the right thing, but then that's what your role is in this particular situation. So you have to do. You need to continue doing it. So that what is being explained to people here by Lord Krishna is to rise above mental platform or sentimental nature and become more dutiful in nature. Because of sentiments, people sometimes they whimsically leave doing certain things which they are supposed to do because they think it's wrong. But it's not wrong. It is coming as a package in your role. So you have to accept it. Like, to give an example, Srila Prabhupada has a disciple. She was married when she met Srila Prabhupada. And she was married to a man who was an Indian. Now, she was not an Indian lady. She was from America. And she was born to an Indian man. But that Indian man was a non-vegetarian. That Indian man did not live a very pure life. Of course, not a devotee. Now, she met Srila Prabhupada. She took initiation from Srila Prabhupada. But then she did not take a divorce with that person. She did not get separated. Her husband, she stayed as a wife. Not that I am a devotee, you are not a devotee, and now because you are not a devotee, you are creating so many problems in my life. I cannot practice Krishna consciousness nicely. So let me get separated. That kind of thinking, if it comes in someone's mind, then that person does not understand what is dharma. That person is a whimsical person. Right? Dharma is not like this. It's not a child's play. So she understood what is my dharma. I married as a wife. I have a certain dharma. I should continue to do that. Because this person is not practicing Krishna consciousness, but this person is not stopping me from practicing Krishna consciousness either. So it's just little inconvenience to be his wife. But that's okay. Now, what happens is generally because people have lost that kind of tolerance, little inconvenience makes them think, let me just drop this thing, drop this activity, drop this duty, drop this seva, drop this relationship. Little inconvenience. Yeah. So that is not to be done. One should stay and one should become tolerant. That brings purification. Otherwise, what will happen is, it's very simple to understand. If I run away from one person because that person is bringing me some kind of trouble, that person is not bringing me trouble. It's my own past karma which is bringing me trouble. So if I run away from that person thinking I'll be saved, wherever I'll run to, I'll find another person who will give me similar troubles. Because it's not the person giving me trouble, it's my own karma which is coming to me. No? So I'll run away from that person, I'll come to another situation, I think now I'm fine, no more trouble anymore. But no, karma will again chase us. It will come in a different form, in a different manner. So here is explained, you stick to doing that. But then you don't just do that. Doing that alone will not help in purification. Do that as a worship to Krishna. That's the key. Do it as a worship to Krishna. Then that situation becomes a springboard to rise high in one's Krishna consciousness. Okay, we'll give you a break. Let's meet after the break.
Hare Krishna Because this is body. You cannot use your body according to your will. This is a vessel.
Okay. So, lesson to learn. Okay, sorry. So, finally, detachment and devotion can help us rise from any lower levels of consciousness to the highest platform of existence. That's the lesson to take away from this section, the entire section. That be detached and have devotion. That will help us to rise above, regardless of whatever we may be doing. Summary: Nishkam Karma Yoga will bring one to the platform of Jnana Yoga. Now, that's not the goal, but though, after Jnana Yoga, one has to go further up. So that Krishna explains in the next section, 1849 to 1855. How from Jnana Yoga one gets higher and higher. Then Krishna will explain the Bhakti Yoga section in the verses 56 to 66. So in this way, he's giving the entire summary of Bhagavad-gita in chapter 18. He's also explaining the yoga ladder. Let's look verse number 49. Asakta buddhi sarvatra jitatma vigata spriyaha naishkarmya siddhim paramam sanyasena adhikacchati. Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tathapnoti nibodhame samasenaiva kaunteya nishtha jnanasya ya para. Buddhaya vishuddhaya yukto dhrityatmanam niyamya cha shabdadin vishayang tyaktva ragadvesha vidushya cha vivikta sevi laghu ashi yatva kaya manasaha dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam samupashritaha ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodham parigraham vimuchya nirmamah shanto Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyments can obtain by practice of renunciation the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. Freedom from reaction means that person becomes naishkarmya, free from karma. That is the goal, the initial goal. And this enables that person to then give up one's even prescribed duty or work and take sannyas. So because Krishna is taking us gradually up the yoga ladder, he's explaining all the individual stages. Srila Prabhupada defines what real sannyas is, which is just an explanation given already before. So next verse. O son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection Which perfection? Nishkama karma or Naishkarmya can attain to the supreme perfectional stage, Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in the way I shall now summarize. So, come from Sakama karma to Nishkama karma. From Nishkama karma, then rise to this platform of Jnana, knowledge, which is called Brahman realization. That's the simplest way of defining this whole section. And then from Jnana or Brahman, then rise to pure devotional service. The next step, the gradual step. Next verse, 3 verses where Krishna explains what that person is supposed to do. By being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, he who eats little, controls his body, mind and power of speech, who is always in trance and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship and peaceful, such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. This is the path prescribed for a devotee? No. This is the path prescribed for a jnani. One is in the path of jnana. These are the steps that a person needs to take to come to the level of self-realization. Here, self-realization means just understanding I am spirit soul. I am Brahman. That's all. I have knowledge. I am eternal and I have knowledge. I know. That's all. But there is a stage beyond that also. We'll discuss that in next verse. Let's read the purport here. Kavya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. When one is purified by intelligence, he keeps himself in the mode of goodness. Thus, one becomes the controller of the mind and is always in trance. He is not attached to the objects of sense gratification, and he is free from attachment and hatred in his activities. Such a detached person naturally prefers to live in a secluded place. He does not eat more than what he requires, and he controls the activities of his body and mind. He has no false ego because he does not accept the body as himself. Nor has he a desire to make the body fat and strong by accepting so many material things. Because he has no bodily concept of life, he is not falsely proud. He is satisfied with everything that is offered to him by the grace of the Lord, and he is never angry in the absence of sense gratification, nor does he endeavor to acquire sense objects. Thus, when he is completely free from false ego, Prabhu, can you scroll up? False ego, he becomes non-attached to all material things, and that is the stage of self-realization of Brahman. The stage is called the Brahma-bhuta stage. When one is free from the material conception of life, he becomes peaceful and cannot be agitated. This is described in Bhagavad-gita 2.70. Apuryamanam achala pratishtatam Samudram abha pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shantim apnoti na kama kami. Prabhuji, can you scroll? A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enters like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So how can one achieve peace? This was again discussed in chapter 2, coming back to the same point. One who is on the stage of freedom from material attachments, that person can experience true peace. It becomes like an ocean. unaffected by anything else, calm, peaceful. That stage is called Brahma Bhuta. That's the first stage in self-realization. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati. Let's read the verse here, this one and the next one. Mad Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. And the last for today, bhaktya mama vijanati yavanyascha tat tato mam tatvato gyatva vishadetat anantaram. Brahma Bhutaha Prasannatma. There are two words. One is Jiva Bhuta and the other word is Brahma Bhuta. Jiva Bhuta means conditioned. Brahma Bhuta means liberated. So Brahma Bhutaha Prasannatma. That person who becomes Brahma Bhuta, self-realized, is Prasannatma, is joyful. Na sochati na kankshati. That person doesn't lament for anything, does not desire or hanker for anything. Which means that person is present in the present. There is no lamentation for what has happened in the past, and there is no desire for something in the future. That person is in the present, is enjoying that present, is happy, joyful. No, this we can observe in our own life. When we are thinking about the past or future, we are thinking about the future, we are not happy at that moment. Either we are worried, we are in anxiety, or anything else, but we are not happy. We are not living that moment very nicely, completely. So to be living that moment completely, we have to be present in that moment completely. We live in that moment totally, be in the present. So be happy, we enjoy that thing. So that person never laments or desires to have anything. He's equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. He attains pure devotional service unto me means what? That person was already having devotional service. It's just that at that stage, that person begins to engage in devotional service only. Before that, there was devotional service along with some karma, some jnana, some this, some that. So many things were mixed. But at this stage, a person, when he or she comes, then that person becomes focused on devotional service only, exclusively devotional service. If a person does not do that, then that person cannot also go beyond this stage. Jnana mixed with bhakti can bring one to Atma realization. Dhyan or mixed with bhakti can bring one to Paramatma realization. But Gyan and Dhyan can never bring one to Bhagavan realization. That is only possible by bhakti, 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 and bhakti only. So one can come to this stage. Now one wants to go beyond this stage, then one has to accept only devotional service. Attain pure devotional service to Krishna. Exclusively. Then one goes beyond this stage. Beyond this stage. Purport. Anju Mataji.
Krishna Prabhuji. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahma Bhut stage, becoming one with the Absolute, is the last word. But for the personalist or the pure devotee, one has to go still further to become engaged in pure devotional service. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation called Brahma Bhut, oneness with the Absolute. Without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute One cannot render service unto him. In the Absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor. Yet, the distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. In the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is a misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. Since God is full, a living entity who is engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness becomes also full in himself. He is just like a river cleansed of all dirty water. Because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna, he is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or aspire for gain. Because he is full in the service of the Lord, he has no desire for material enjoyment, because he knows that every living entity is a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore eternally a servant. He does not see in the material world someone as higher and someone as lower, someone as higher and someone as lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral, and a devotee has nothing to do with ephemeral appearances or disappearances. For him, stone and gold are of equal value. This is the 𝗵𝗵 stage, and this stage is attained very easily by pure devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. The idea of attaining this heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria, and the senses are like serpents whose poison teeth are broken. As there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth, there is no fear from the senses when they are automatically controlled. The world is miserable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha or the spiritual sky. Prabhuji, you need to scroll. Yeah, thank you. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. Such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this age. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So one comes to 𝗵𝗵 stage, and then one has to go beyond. That is possible by accepting the process that has been given by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to the stage of pure devotional service. That's why after we study Bhagavad-gita, we should study Srimad Bhagavatam. After we study Srimad Bhagavatam, we should study Chaitanya Charitamrita to understand what exactly is pure devotional service being taught by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhagavad-gita, because it is coming with Bhaktivedanta purpose, Bhagavad-gita can help us come to pure devotional service. But Bhagavad-gita, if it is without Bhaktivedanta purpose, then in Kali Yuga, Bhagavad-gita can only bring one to the platform of liberation. Cannot bring more, cannot take one further. Because Bhagavad-gita does not touch upon the subject of pure devotional service so much. It is just about bringing a person to the platform of liberation. And it is mixed up with so many topics. That's why you go to the market, you'll find thousands of people writing, speaking, commenting on Bhagavad-gita. But then of that huge number, you'll find only a few who touch Srimad Bhagavatam. Because Srimad Bhagavatam, the content is so pure that they cannot touch and manipulate it. But for Bhagavad-gita, it's possible, it's abstract. And then forget about touching Chaitanya Charitamrita, not possible. Because Chaitanya Charitamrita, it only talks about pure devotional service. There's nothing else, nothing else. So from there, one begins to understand what is pure devotional service and get an idea of pure devotional service. Get involved into pure devotional service. Mad bhaktim labate param. And by that bhakti, what happens? Bhaktyamam abhijanati yaman yaschashmitat fataha tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. Only by devotional service one can understand Krishna as he is. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. When one is in that consciousness, one can enter into the kingdom of God. For us to enter into the kingdom of God, we have to become like the people there. We cannot be people of this place and then enter into that place. For us to enter there, we have to become people who are there, like them. Our thinking, our behaving, our talking, our feeling. It has to become like them. Then we can enter there. Otherwise, we'll be an odd piece out. Right? Our thoughts will not match with theirs. And how are the people in Vrindavan? The people in Vrindavan are something like this. When Nand Baba and Yashoda was not getting a child, though they were old, they had gray hairs, they were not getting a baby. So many years, they're not getting a child. So, because Nanda was the king of Vrindavan, cowherd king, and Yashoda was the queen, and all the Vrajvasis, they loved Yashoda and Nanda dearly. So when they were not getting a baby, and they decided to fast to get a baby, all the Vrindavan Vasis, they said, why would you only fast? We will also fast with you. Fast not for their personal benefit. Fast so that Nand Baba and Yashoda can have a baby, can have a child. So this is the mood of Vrindavan. And a person who develops this kind of selfless mood can enter into Vrindavan. They were not fasting for their own purpose. They're fasting for the purpose of Nanda and Yashoda. And not just one day fast, it was a fast for 1 year. And every Dwadashi they would fast. So 24 Dwadashis, they fasted. The whole village of Vrindavan fasted. So that's the attitude of people in Vrindavan. And if we want to enter into kingdom of God, we have to develop that kind of attitude. Then we get in there. That nature has to come. Then we get into there. Then we get qualified. People, they say, just go back to Godhead like this. No, it's not like that. Just by doing some Hare Krishna chanting, will not get into there. Not like that. It's the quality. The quality of my heart should change. That will take me there, right? Process should bring a transformation. Before transformation, there is no transcendence. There has to be transformation first, then there is transcendence. So that transformation makes one qualified to enter into Krishna's kingdom, Krishna's abode. So we study their nature, we study their activities, we hear about them, then only we get to know how they are. Why study Srimad Bhagavatam? Why study Chaitanya Charitamrita? If we don't study these books, how will we know how are the Vrajvasis? What's their nature? What they do? What they think? How they behave? How they react? How would we know? And without we knowing it, how will we ever desire to become like them? Let's study this more in Nectar of Devotion. That to go back home, back to Godhead is not very easy task. It appears to be easy because when we hear in a lecture, the speaker makes it sound easy. Because if the speaker makes it sound difficult, everyone will run away, right? So the speaker makes it sound easy. Prabhupada made it very easy. Just go back home, back to God, as if it's so easy. You just step out of the door, or you step into the door and you're into the spiritual world. But it's not that easy. It's a science. And for that science, he wrote down so many books. Please try to understand the science. It's a science. Understand the science, apply it, the principles in your life, the teachings in your life, and then you prepare yourself to enter there, to go there. So by bhakti alone, one can enter into the kingdom of God. That's explained here very nicely. Prabhupada again explains the purport. Let's read the purport. Lokesh Prabhu, you can read.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculations, nor by the non-devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take to pure devotional service under the guidance of pure devotee. Otherwise, the truth of Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden. As already stated in Bhagavad-gita 7.25, Naham Prakashaha Sarvasya. He is not revealed to everyone. No one can understand God simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand what Krishna is. University degree are not helpful. Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
One more paragraph you can read.
One who is fully conversant with Krishna science becomes eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the abode of Krishna. Becoming Brahman does not mean that one loses his identity. Devotional service is there, and as long as devotional service exists, there must be God, the devotee, and the process of devotional service. Such knowledge is never vanquished, even after liberation. Liberation involves getting free from the concept of material life. In spiritual life, the same distinction is there. The same individuality is there, but in pure Krishna consciousness, one should not mistakenly think that the word Vishate enters into me. Suppose the monist theory that one becomes homogeneous with the impersonal Brahman. No, Vishate means that one can enter into the abode of Supreme Lord in one's individuality to engage in his association and render service unto him. For instance, a green bird enters a green tree, not to become one with the tree, but to enjoy the fruits of the tree. Impersonalists generally give the example of a river flowing into the ocean and merging. This may be a source of happiness for the impersonalist, but a personalist keeps his personal individuality like an aquatic in the ocean. We find so many living entities within the ocean. If we go deep, surface acquaintance with the ocean is not sufficient. One must have complete knowledge of the aquatics living in the ocean depths. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next paragraph, Rasheshwari Mataji.
Prabhuji starts after attainment of Brahma.
Because of his.
Okay. Because of his pure devotional service, a devotee can understand the transcendental qualities and the opulences of the Supreme Lord in truth. As it is stated in the 11th chapter, only by devotional service can one understand. The same is confirmed here. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service and enter into his kingdom. After attainment of Brahma-bhuta stage of freedom from material conception, devotional service begins by one's hearing about the Lord. When one hears about the Supreme Lord, automatically the Brahma-bhuta stage develops and material contamination, greediness, and lust for sense enjoyment disappears. As lust and desires disappear from the heart of a devotee, he becomes more attached to the service of the becomes more attached where is it? To
Yeah.
the service, yes, to the service of the Lord, and by such attachment he becomes free from material contamination. In that state of life, he can understand the Supreme Lord. This is the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam also. After liberation, the process of bhakti or transcendental service continues. The Vedanta Sutra 4.1.12 confirms that aprayayana tatrapi hi drishtam. This means that after liberation, the process of devotional service continues. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, real devotional liberation is defined as the reinstatement of the living entity in his own identity, his own constitutional position. The constitutional position is already explained. Every living entity is a part and parcel fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his constitutional position is to serve. After liberation, this service is never stopped. Actual liberation is getting free from the misconceptions of life. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Paramita.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, you told that we have to study Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I want to know that how the other books, like those are included in this course, Bhakti Shastri, Nectar of Devotion, Ishopanishad, and Nectar of Instruction, how these books can help us to progress in our devotional life. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So how do the other books help? Sri Ishopanishad, the purpose of writing that book is that it helps one realize God is a person. It is a very important lesson to be learned, to be involved in devotional service. For many people, God is just an abstract idea. They don't see God as a person. And because they don't see God as a person, they don't treat God as a person. There cannot be any bhakti without treating Krishna as a person. So Ishopanishad is for that purpose. Nectar of Instruction is essence of all the instructions that a sadhaka needs, that Srila Rupa Goswami has given, based on Bhagavad-gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because other books are huge and bulky, so then he just gave 11 verses, so that once you know those 11 verses, you know everything. I mean, you know the essence, you know. So Nectar of Instruction, a very small compilation. It has just 11 verses. But then they talk about the lowest stage of devotional service to the highest stage of devotional service. So it gives you an entire picture. Then Nectar of Devotion is a very exalted book, very esoteric book. Nectar of Devotion is at par with Chaitanya Charitamrita in its level. So we study Nectar of Devotion, but we don't study it completely. It has 4 sections. So in Bhakti Shastri course, we just study the first section, the first part of it. Because the remaining parts, they are very esoteric in nature and they are not for neophyte people. So we should be studying them after we have practiced Krishna consciousness for 10, 15, 20 years. Then they will start making sense to us, those sections of Nectar of Devotion. So we study only the first 19 chapters. And then after that, you know, people who want to study further, they can go for studying Srimad Bhagavatam. Along with that, they can study then the next unit of Nectar of Devotion. Then they can go and study Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then they can study the whole Nectar of Devotion. So this way it is put in this way. David Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, your grace, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for this wonderful class. In chapter 18, verse 47, The purport says something about the Sastriya. Sometimes he has to lie because of diplomacy. So in this case, is it applied to a common man, everybody sometimes to lie because of diplomacy or to prevent conflict, or it just applied to the Sastras? Actually, I have two questions, but this is the first one.
Telling lies has to be understood in the picture of the context. What is the context? Like Sripad mentioned, even a merchant sometimes has to tell a lie. Now, what kind of lie is talking about? Salome Mataji also asked a question regarding that. You know, in India, you must have seen this. I mean, if you have been to India, when people go for shopping, they will ask, what is the price of this cost? And then that person will say, actually, the price is 250, but just for you, I'll make it 200. And I'm not taking any profit from you. I'm just giving it to you, you know. So that person is definitely making a profit. Now, this is a lie. I'm not making a profit. But it's not a big lie. You know that person is making a profit. But how much profit? 20 rupees, 30 rupees, whatever it may be, right? So that kind of lie. Similarly, in diplomacy, you may have to sometimes say some lies. But we should know these lies are not spoken out of hatred. You know, these are spoken just because we understand human nature. You want to get your thing done, and sometimes you have to play with the words to get your things done. So that's what being spoken here. So the context is very essential. Here it's not being spoken about all the black money, it's business and stuff like that. No, not that. You know, not that. The minor lies, very, very, very small, petty lies, that is being spoken. Okay, next question.
Yeah, the next question was, before we went to the break, you were explaining something about a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who took initiation from Srila Prabhupada, and she was married, and her husband was non-vegetarian, and he has to continue being in the marriage and so on. So my question here, I have two parts. Is it okay for the woman to cook meat for the husband, because cooking for the husband is also part of the service to the husband? So he has to. Is it okay for the woman to cook meat and eggs for the husband? And other one is, for instance, if you are in a relationship with someone and the person, like in my early stage like this, it has happened to everybody in a relationship, and you see that even if you are in point of getting married, but the person is distracting you in sense that he eat meat, he eat everything, and maybe he started to complain about your devotional service and so on. Do you still have to go on with that? Because like you said something that if maybe if I heard it right, if you live, it's more like you're running away from your karma. So if you see something like this, to my mind, I think I have to choose Krishna consciousness, because I know it will be very distracted to me and it will not help me to go further. So in these two questions, what should a person do?
Thank you. It depends on exactly what is the situation of that person. Now, for her, that was the situation. And it's not that she never tried to solve that situation or come out of that situation. But when she saw that there's no way out, so then she accepted it. It doesn't mean that you don't try to make things more favorable for you. You definitely do that. That's how an intelligent person functions. But if things are not happening, even if you are desiring, so putting efforts for that, then you just accept, right? That's the point. It's not that you are happy in that situation. Okay, my husband is a non-vegetarian. Let him be a non-vegetarian. And I'm very happy making non-vegetarian meals for my husband. No. She definitely tried to persuade him. Sometimes even, okay, tell that person, you want to eat, you eat. You can order from the restaurant and eat. Or you can cook for yourself. So it has to be seen exactly in your situation. What is the problem? What is that relationship? Who is that other person? How much to, persuade that person to change? How much that person can change? One has to try all of that. And then after you have tried all those things, and then now this is what is happening, and nothing can be changed from here, then you just accept it. Accept it as your lot, and you continue to do what you're supposed to do. Pray to Krishna for help. Okay. You have to unmute yourself.
I think this. I'm not clear with this answer. I mean, if the devotee does he has to cook for the husband with meat or eggs and so on, or she don't have to?
I told you, there's nothing like has to or has not to. It depends on the situation and exactly the person and the relationship that wife has with the husband. Sometimes she can do away without cooking. That's okay. Sometimes she cannot do away without cooking. So in that case, for her case, that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Right? So we should know the definition of right and wrong also changes when it comes to a particular person and situation. For me, in a situation, if it is wrong, maybe for another person in another situation, that thing might be right. So dharma is seen in this manner. It's not like, now, okay, if I tell you this is right, every wife should be doing that. It doesn't mean that now it becomes a law and every wife should do that. If I say this is wrong, every woman should not be doing it. Don't cook for your husband if he's a non-vegetarian, whatever it may be. So then it doesn't become a law for every woman to follow.
Okay. Okay. And other thing. Okay, concerning about the karma. For instance, let's say 2.5 years ago, I broke up with my partner because we used to eat together. We do a lot of things together. And when I begin my devotion, my devotee, it gets to a point. I see a lot of things wrong with the things we do. Because sometimes we went to McDonald's, we eat together. Sometimes we went to restaurant and so on. And she eats pig and so on. But with the time, I begin to understand that I cannot continue doing this, And she started fighting against my devotional service, taking telephone and call my people and so on. And I become very upset because I've been lying to them because I have family issues. So I begin to understand that she's fighting against my devotional service because it was a time she told me that, why am I going too fast with the devotional service? So we break up because of this. So this means that I'm running away from my karma, or I should have tolerated her. This is my question.
What you should have done in that situation, only Krishna can tell. Because
in my part, I choose the devotional service.
What you should have done in that situation, I cannot tell because I don't know exactly the whole situation. But we are here trying to learn a principle. A principle is what? Let me tell you something very simple.
Okay.
When we get into Krishna consciousness and we are new into Krishna consciousness, because Krishna consciousness is so nice, we have a fear of not losing it. That's how it is with anything nice you get in life. isn't it?
Yes.
Because you're so excited about it. Doesn't it happen when a boy falls in so-called love with a girl, or a girl falls in so-called love with a boy? Then they are ready to fight against the whole world for that person. Parents are bad, brothers and sisters are bad, the whole society is bad, the community is bad, only this girl is good, or only this boy is good.
Yeah.
Right? It happens, right?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Then you
yes.
want to give up everything for that person.
Yeah.
Happens, correct?
Yes, yes.
But is it true that everyone is bad?
No.
Similarly, when one comes to Krishna consciousness, initially that upsurge of emotions is there, that because this is the best thing which I have got in my life, I should give up everything for this best thing. That emotion is very nice. That feeling is very nice. But one has to be a little mature also. How? We may externally give up those things, but we are still dependent on those things for many, many reasons. And when we give up those things, in long term, long run, then you start missing those things. Or you start feeling absence of those things.
No, but in my case, I've never.
Not for you, but it happens.
Yeah.
It happens for some people, right?
Yes.
So what they should do is that in that situation, they should give some time to taking a decision. It's very essential. Some time to taking a decision. By giving the other person some chances, some opportunities. Because please try to understand, no one will jump into what you do immediately. That person may take some time.
Okay.
Right? So you have to give that time to that person. If you have given that time to that person and then that still person is not taking it up, then it's okay. You tried your best. But if you don't allow the person sufficient time, then is it not being unrealistic in your approach? It's being very unrealistic. Like, to give an example, if I came into Krishna consciousness and my parents did not, my father did not, or my mother did not, or my other relatives did not. If I think because they have not come to Krishna consciousness, let me just, cancel my relationship with them, just drop my relationship with them. I'm being very unrealistic. Why? Because their karma is different from my karma. Their life situations are different from my life situations. They may take more time to come into Krishna consciousness than me, right? So what I need to do is, I need to continue the relationship with them in such a way that my Krishna consciousness is also not hampered, and at the same time, I'm not breaking my relationship with them. That gives that person a chance in future to get connected to Krishna consciousness, right? So what we should do is that we should allow some time to take that decision. But if we take that decision in haste, then whole life we will have some kind of, we'll feel sorry. Maybe I did a mistake, right? That will happen. Naturally, it will happen. Okay. So it is true, when we are new, we take decisions in haste. But as we grow in Krishna consciousness, we'll understand that let us take some time to take any decision. Because people take time to change. It's not easy.
Yes.
It's not easy. We should allow them that much time also, because we are also not changing immediately. So there are some people who are allowing us that time.
Yeah.
So we should also allow them that time to change. Give them that time to change.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Vrindarani Mataji.
Hare Krishna. During the class, Prabhu, you said that we should do activities which are given to us according to our varma, that we should observe them as if they are given to us by Krishna, and at the end to offer them to Krishna, and in that way they will become a source of purification. So my question is, for a person living outside of the temple, which one is more purifying, to do the things with such attitude, or to have a very strict sadhana as a temple devotee? I'm asking this because not so long ago we have discussion with the senior Mataji. She's retired now, and she thought that our yatra is not progressing because most of us, we don't have such strict sadhana as temple devotees, means waking up very early and singing the same songs and like living in the temple. We try to explain to her that we are working, and the work we do is very exhausting, and we are trying to follow eternal attitude of devotional service, and it's not always possible to follow all other standards. I don't know if my question is clear, which is more important for a devotee living outside the temple.
Whether we are living outside the temple, we're living inside the temple, there is some time that we need to take out for Krishna consciousness. That's there, and it should be there. Because even if, let's say, I'm living outside the temple and I'm engaging in different activities, my inspiration will not continue for long if I don't engage in a good sadhana on daily basis. Like I mentioned today in the class, Vishvanatha Thakur says, you should offer everything you do to Krishna. Now that's something happening on the level of consciousness. That consciousness remains maintained by doing a good sadhana. And so it's not that it's a choice between two, having a good sadhana or doing your material duties nicely. We have to put them together. Because even for a devotee living in the temple, a devotee also has material things to do. Externally may say, no, everything is for Krishna. But then don't you have to go out of the temple to do shopping? Don't you have to go out to the temple for fundraising? Don't you have to go out of the temple to do different programs, right? They also have to go, isn't it? So things become material and spiritual not based on where you do it. Things become material, spiritual based on the attitude you have behind doing it. So to have that spiritual attitude behind doing anything that we do, whether we are living in the house or we are living in the temple, we need to have a good sadhana. People who don't have good sadhana, even if they're living in temple, they don't always have good consciousness. So they're living in the temple. Their consciousness may be also as unclean as someone living outside. It's just that the place is different. Because consciousness becomes purified when we engage in sadhana. We have to engage in purification. Then only the consciousness will get purified. So if I have good sadhana, which is chanting the names, holy names nicely, reading the scriptures daily, hearing a nice Krishna conscious talk, that's what sadhana is. So my consciousness will remain pure. Now, why we should do these activities in the morning? Because the morning time is very helpful. That's the only reason, right? It's not that only a temple devotee should be doing it. Actually, everyone should be doing it. Because it's a very, very nice time for practice Krishna consciousness. It's not necessary that we need to go to temple. We can even get up early in our own house and just chant there. That's okay. Not that we have to go all the way to temple to attend the program. We can just get up early in our own house and chant the holy name. It will be much better than chanting the holy name in the evening or at night, because the quality is going to be different, right? So Srila Prabhupada gave a very simple formula, which is what? He gave a sandwich formula. In the morning, the early morning hours, engage in spiritual activities. Then your day begins at, let's say, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever time it may be. Then you engage in your material responsibilities. And then in the evening, before you go to rest, again, you sandwich the whole day with the evening, part of spiritual activities. He gave that sandwich formula. And that's for everyone. Temple, not temple, brahmachari, grihastha, man, woman, working, not working. Now, that's the formula. How I have to apply this formula, it's a personal thing now. It's a challenge we have to see. How do I make my life in a way that I can follow this formula? The more I follow this formula, the more I remain strong in Krishna consciousness. It's not necessary to move inside the temple. No, not required. But we have to follow that formula wherever we are. Temple is just to facilitate following this formula. If someone is living in temple and not following this formula, again, it's useless. It's again useless. So that formula is a science and it has to be followed by everyone. Everyone should do it. That's why we just have to see how we can adjust our life to whatever extent it is possible. I know sometimes it's not possible. So to whatever extent is possible, if waking up at 4:30 is not possible, wake up at 5. 5:30 is not, 5 is not possible, wake up at 5:30. But not that I should continue to sleep till 10 o'clock. That's not going to help, isn't it? So things can be adjusted a little bit here and there because different people have different situations. But the principle has to be understood. That's the thing. So it's not necessary that one has to be in temple, but sadhana is important, yes. If we do good sadhana, then throughout the day, whatever we do, all the material things that we need to do, we'll be able to maintain the consciousness that though I'm in office, I'm dealing with these materialistic people in a materialistic environment, I'm doing everything for Krishna. Then whatever I do will bring me advancement in Krishna consciousness. Right? That has to be learned. That art has to be learned. And this has to be learned by everyone, even for people living in the temple. They also should learn this art. Okay, thank you. Is listening to Bhagavad-gita devotional service? Yes. If you listen attentively, yes. As we find that qualities of Sthita Pragya, Brahmanas, Gunatita are somewhat similar, the same Krishna is talking about. Sthita Pragya and Gunatita is same. A Brahmana, if he is a real Brahmana, then that person is also a Brahman Jana Titi Brahmana. That person knows Brahman. So yes, the qualities will be similar. Right? In the purport of 54, it says, without being one with the Supreme, one cannot render service unto him. Very nice question. Without being one with the Supreme, you cannot render service unto him. Yes. Becoming one here means not that we have to become God to serve God. Right? Becoming one means you have to become one in nature. You have to become one in purpose, one in desire. Then you can serve God. One has to become one in nature, one in purpose. Then it is possible, no? Let's say I plan to do something. If you don't have similar desires, then whatever you do will not be something supporting me. You have to have similar desires, then what you do will support me. So being one with Krishna means to have desires as what Krishna has. Then you become one with Krishna. You become a team member of Krishna. That's what Ambarish Maharaj's prayer was. We discussed that prayer. The last line of that prayer was that Krishna, whatever desires you have, let those desires become my desires. Then I'm one with Krishna, because I want what he wants. So when we become one with desires with Krishna, we can serve Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have to become one in desire. That's the point. One in desire. David Prabhu. Okay, last time. Okay, we have Usha Mataji also. Usha Mataji, you have a question?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the lovely session. I was able to attend today. What I wanted to ask you, Prabhuji, you said that when Yashoda Mata and Nand Maharaj were not getting a child, so entire Vrindavan Vasis, they all fasted for Dwadashi. So why not Ekadashi? I was wondering, Prabhuji. It just came to my mind. Maybe Dwadashi.
Because Dwadashi Vrata is more potent than Ekadashi Vrata.
Okay. So why we don't do Dwadashi and why we do Ekadashi, Prabhuji?
We do Dwadashi only. For Smartas, it is Ekadashi. For us, it's Dwadashi.
Dwadashi, yeah. Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, David Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Your Grace. I have this small problem and I want advice from you. I have this character of, if I started reading a book, I read to a certain point, and if I get another one, then I leave that one behind and started to read the other one. And if I get another one, I just left it and started reading the other one. And it become like habit. And you being my teacher, I know you know my level of education. So what do you think I should do? Which book will you recommend for me so that I will stick to it?
The problem is not with the book, the problem is with you.
Yes, I know, but sometimes I can't help it. Because I have this in anyway, Prabhupada Life book, 𝗹𝗶𝗹𝗹. I started reading it, I cannot stop it. I read it to the end, and the other books as well. But I have this book, Black Lotus. I was reading it, and it came Journey from Mirvik to Mayapur, Jack Pataka Swami, and I put it aside and I started reading that one, and I read the middle, and the last time His Holiness Yadanda Swami, the spiritual master in Spain, actually he introduced me to my spiritual master Bhaktivinoda Madara. He gave me a book and I left that one and I started reading that book. So
it's okay. It happens, you see, no worries. Sometimes we do that.
Yeah.
But then you can always try to get back to the book which you have already started reading and make it a point that don't just read because reading is a time pass. You know, you should read to learn, have a purpose behind reading. Not just because you want to pass your time, so you're reading something. So if you read books like a novel, this is what's going to happen. So you read book not just like a novel, you read the book to learn. And you continue to complete them, then you go to the next one. So it's okay. You can read books with this attitude, and you can also sometimes read books with just for fun, for entertainment, for relaxing yourself. So do both. That's okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Because all these people, they inspire me. So sometimes in my mind, I think, okay, I've read this one, I have to read this one too, you know. So
that's okay.
I find it difficult to complete them.
But you can go back to the other one.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.